Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanande. Reading from Srila Prabhupada Vilamrita Volume 5, Let There Be a Temple. This is biography of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Prabhupada, founder of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So this is interesting how it starts. Srila Prabhupada's next stop was Australia. It's for us, it's such a different caliber for us. The next stop can be Glasgow. Actually, in my current situation, the next stop is Prasadam Hall. And for Prabhupada, the next stop is Australia. He had worked out a schedule whereby he would attend 3 Ratha Yatra festivals in 3 cities. First in Melbourne, then a week later in Chicago, and 2 days later in San Francisco. So Australia, next stop is Chicago, and next stop is San Francisco. He would then go to Los Angeles, Dallas, and New Vrindavan, timing everything for his return to Vrindavan by July 25th for the Krishna Balaram Mandir opening 2 weeks later. He was now regularly referring to the opening date of the Krishna Balaram Mandir as a time when many devotees from around the world could gather at Vrindavan to be with him. On June 17, he had written from Germany to Jaya Hari in London. I am presently traveling through Europe and in the past weeks have held many programs in Rome, Geneva, Paris, and now Germany. I, therefore, have no time to carefully study and decide on your proposals. The best thing is if you can come and meet with me personally after I have finished this present form. I am planning to go to Vrindavan for Janmashtami, for the opening installation ceremonies of our Krishna Balaram temple. If you can come to see me in Vrindavan, I would be glad to discuss and plan with you what is best for your devotional service engagement. After a 24 flight, I think it's only a 24-hour flight from Frankfurt to Australia, Prabhupada was picked up at the Melbourne airport by devotees in a borrowed Rolls-Royce. The newspaper reporters very quick to notice the car. The newspaper reporters were quick to notice the car. Divine Grace comes rolling in, read one headline. The story began. 60 young Hare Krishna devotees yesterday welcomed their earthly leader to the city with obeisances, but official Melbourne met him coolly. Another story began. A chauffeur-driven Rolls-Royce will meet the founder of the materialistic shunning Hare Krishna sect, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, at Tullamarine today. Another newspaper showed a large picture of Srila Prabhupada smiling on board the headline, His Divine Grace is here to have us. The story began. His Divine Grace is Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder of the Hare Krishna movement, is here to save us from the dog's life. Unless we cultivate some spiritual knowledge once His Divine Grace, we are left with a dog's mentality. News coverage of Prabhupada's visit didn't end with reports on his arrival at the airport. The next day, while the devotees were preparing the Ratha Yatra cards, an extraordinary incident resulted in front-page headlines in the Herald. Krishna sect uses canopy to save women from blazing office. Monks from the Hare Krishna sect held a painted canvas canopy of their religious wagon as a safety net so fire-screaming women could jump to safety from a blazing 3-story building in Melbourne yesterday. Some crazy coverage. The article was accompanied by 2 large pictures showing Hare Krishnas holding the large canvas canopy. Although the news media was unable to understand the disciples' love for Srila Prabhupada, the rescue was something everyone could relate to, wrote a columnist in The Australian. The fact that makes the rescue doubly impressive was the use of a holy rug, not just an ordinary bedroom one, but for the rescue mission. The rug was being sewn for use at the religious festival in Melbourne tomorrow. So there was 5 ladies jumped from the three-story building in Melbourne on the canopy that was built for Raghunath. Devotees used it as some sort of a catching nest, which I'm guessing will save their lives, otherwise they would have just burned. I don't think they had anything to do with devotees themselves, but somehow another devotees happened to be around when the building was burning, and their canopy. These 5 ladies jumped and were caught safely. That's amazing. The columnists coyly speculated whether devotees' holy rug was still usable in the religious festival as a canopy for His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. You see, the Swami is not one of your ordinary Swamis. He is the founder of the Hare Krishna, and the group describes him as the Lord of the universe. Devotee spokesman had reported, however, that the rug would be used in the festival. The incident proved to be good publicity for the festival the next day, when Lord Raghunath, the Lord of the universe, and his pure devotee Srila Prabhupada held a Ratha Yatra procession through the main streets of Melbourne. Regarding media coverage, Prabhupada had said that simply the printing of the holy names Hare Krishna greatly benefited the readers, regardless of whether the names were mentioned in reverence or disrespect. This is a positive vision of Srila Prabhupada. Even the articles weren't so favorable. He said because he said Hare Krishna, then it's good. And it was a great publicity for the festival itself, because people, they like a little bit of intrigue, and attracts them to come to check it out. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Reading from Grantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, Text number 31. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ye Va U Ha Tat Rata Charana Nimi Krita Parikatas Ke Satta Sindava Asan Yata Eva Krita Satta Bhuvo Dvipa Eva Uha Tadrata Charana Nimikrita Parikratas Te Sapta Sindava Asan Yata Eva Krita Sapta Bhuvo Dvipa. So, anybody would like to try to repeat it? We can do like a few words. Yeva uha tadrata charana. Nimikrita parikataste sapta. Sindava asanyata eva krita. Sapta bhuvo dvipa. Yeva uha tadrata charana. Nimikrita parikrataste sapta. Sindava asanyata eva krita. Sapta bhuvo dvipa. John Prabhu, would you like to try? No. Alright. Anyone else? Yes?
Yeva uha tadrata charana nimikrita. Is it the whole thing or just
do a little bit of the time.
Yeva uha tadrata charana.
Yeva uha tadrata charana.
Nemikrita parikataste sapta.
Nimikrita parikataste sapta.
Sindava sanyata eva.
Sindava sanyata eva.
Krita sapta bhuvo dvipa.
Krita sapta bhuvo dvipa. Eva tadrata charana. Nimikrita parikataste sapta. Sindava sanyata eva. Krita sapta bhuvo dvipa. Ye, that, va, u, ha. That's a nice word. Certainly. Tatrata.
Tatrata.
Oh, his chariot. Charana. Of the wheels. Nemi. By the rims. Krita. Made. Parikata. Trenches. Te. Those. Sapta. 7. Sindava. Oceans. Asam. Became. Yatha. Because of which. Eva. Certainly. Krita. Were made. Sapta. 7. Bhuvava. Of the Bhumandala. Dvipa. Islands. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. When Priyavrata drove his chariot behind the sun, the rims of his chariot wheels created impressions that later became 7 oceans, dividing the planetary system known as Bhumandala into 7 islands. Report. Sometimes the planets in outer space are called islands. We have experience of various types of islands in the ocean. And similarly, the various planets divided into 14 lokas are islands in the ocean of space. As Priyavrata drove his chariot behind the sun, he created 7 different types of oceans and planetary systems, which altogether are known as Bhumandala or Bhuloka. In the Gayatri Mantra, we chant Om Bhurbhuvaha Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam. Above the Bhuloka planetary system is Bhuvarloka, and above that is Svargaloka, the heavenly planetary system. All these planetary systems are controlled by Savita, the sun god. By chanting the Gayatri Mantra just after rising early in the morning, one worships the deep sun god. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Staptam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamishcha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatha Vitantam Sajivam Sadvitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitamishcha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Digatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tata Kanchana Gaurati Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnaveyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karati Vachanam Gumangayati Yati Mahamandi Shri Guru Dina Taranam. My devoted spiritual master, a blind man can see the stars, a lame man can cross the mountains, and dumb man can speak eloquently. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances to my spiritual master, Namo Shri Hare Krishna. Shrimati Bhagavatam Srimad Om Shri Hare Krishna 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 Bhakti Vedanta Swami So there are different types of planetary systems. I can read this translation. Then Priyavrata drove his chariot behind the sun. The rims of his chariot wheels created impressions that later became 7 oceans, dividing the planetary system known as Bhumandala into 7 islands. There are different planetary systems there in the universe, and the reason why there are those different kind of levels of the planets is to facilitate the different types of consciousness. The living entity left the spiritual world, entered this material creation, and it embraces a different types of mentality and consciousness according to one's desire and according to one's activities. There are 8,400,000 species of life just to facilitate different levels of consciousness. One gets body and the senses grouped around the mind according to the mentality then that one is cultivating throughout one life. And whatever state of being one remembers at the time of death, that state of being one gets without fail according to the level of one's consciousness. And therefore, there's a wide variety of different planets according to around the universe to facilitate the desire to enjoy in a particular specific way of the living entity. There are planets that are very technologically advanced, as described, where people are very atheistic and they are very focused on technological development, kind of obsessed about it. So there is this person mentioned, Maya Danova, who actually built an assembly house for the Pandavas because his life was saved by Arjuna, I believe. So this very mystical kind of assembly house was given by Maya Danava. So there are planets which is very technologically focused. There are planets that are in the lower modes. There's a lot of suffering there, and the people has got this lower consciousness manifesting in various types of mode of ignorance qualities, in terms of harshness, in terms of being, very nasty or sleepy or very predominantly angry, etc. The consciousness that there are planets where you go to facilitate the reactions to your misdeeds, to the activities that are outside of the teachings of the scripture, the activities that are harming others or extremely harming oneself. So there are planets or consciousness and types of bodies that are meant to receive these hard reactions. So that's lower planetary systems. They are Patala, Sutala, and the various types of lower planetary systems. And then there is a higher planetary systems that facilitates elevated consciousness, sages, demigods, pious living entities, and various types of angelic type of beings. You can reside in a little higher realms or even much higher realms, rishis, etc., very austere type of beings, etc. There are higher planetary systems, and that's again to facilitate the consciousness. And then there's of a living being, and then there's a middle planetary systems, earthly, where people are more in a mode of passion. And so when there are very many material desires that are to do with enjoying one's senses, enjoying one's body, but it's not done in a way which is like a necessarily extremely, people in that realm, they're not. It's actually a middle ground. This earthly planetary system is a very significant place actually from where you go either up or down. If your activities are degraded, your consciousness go down and you go to the lower planetary systems. And after you suffered in those lower planetary systems, you again come back to the earthly plane. It's very, very significant actually place. And if you're very pious, if you elevate your consciousness to the mode of goodness, you can go up. You can go up and your enjoyment increases, your quality of life is higher, your material happiness levels are higher, your body is of higher facility. Like, in this world, the scent of the body, is not always so great necessarily. But in higher planetary systems, the body in itself, it has a very nice aromatic scent without using any perfume. Like in this world, people use a lot of perfume to keep the body scent, positive. But in the higher planetary systems, the scent of the body in itself is, positive or aromatic or attractive. So that's the higher planetary systems. In many ways, is like enjoyment is higher, quality of life is higher, and there is even a drink called somaras, where you drink and it increases your mode of goodness. Like in this planet, you drink something, your consciousness goes down, your consciousness becomes degraded, and mode of ignorance become prominent, and people act in an ignorant, mixed with a passionate ways. While in a higher planets, in the summer rust, you get a massive boost of a mode of goodness. You're just like joyful, happy, positive, in a mode of goodness way. There's this summer rust. And sometimes people think, is it how you can accommodate this idea? Can I really believe in this? But even look at this material world, just in this planet, so to speak, if you forget the rest of the universe, just in this planet, you can see there are very heavenly places. That there is like a barely any rain, or if it rains a little bit. The palm trees, the water is crystal clear and blue, etc., etc. Like a Hawaii or something like that, or Fiji. I don't know, so many heavenly planets in this earthly plane. But there you can see some idyllic situations. Or what is that other place? Bali. There's this Bali like island where in very, very idyllic situation, everything is just fantastic. And then there are some really hellish as well places in this world, like if you look, there is like a very, very high industry. People are living in the skyscrapers into the small little, flats, all packed up, in a small place. And or some places are very poor, they don't even have houses, like you see in some places in India, how are they called, slums, we call slums, and there's, or like people are, or sometimes different areas in the one city, even in the one city looks like some places look like nice and green and heavenly, and so a little bit more in a mode of goodness. Some places in a mode of passion, very clean, but like a very high skyscrapers, office buildings. And then you go to a different part of the town, there is so much poverty, people have barely anything to eat, and etc. This contrasts. So even within, you can see it within this planet or within this one city, you can see there is differences. There's differences there. So this applies to the whole universe. And there is even like educational places. You go to the education system. If you do well, you go to like academics, or you go to business, or you go blah blah blah. Or if you don't do so well, you go to some just a simple job, street sweeper or whatever. So even you go through a certain educational system and you go like, from material point of view, going up into higher education, or you go to just getting just a profession or something, professional training, or just like a simple work that doesn't require the education. So there is also that kind of thing. So this earthly plane is kind of situation from where you can go up materially or down materially, or you can go back to the spiritual world, and you never take birth again. So if you don't have any spiritual understanding, it's like a yo-yo. Like we can go up and we can go down, up and down, up and down. And we go down, we suffer, we come back to earthly plane, and we learn our lesson. We try to be a good person because those impressions from past life stayed in your mind. So you may like after really suffering a lot in the past life, and you burn your bad karma. You may be born in a kind of relatively neutral situation, and because of your past experience, you may even become a good person, and then you go up, and then by going up the planets, or you go up the ladder in this material realm in terms of beauty, in terms of fame, in terms of your beauty and bodily structure, in terms of fame, in terms of knowledge, that we have an education, in terms of your bodily strength. If you are pious, you can get those desires fulfilled, even in this material realm. But there is also a tendency when you go up, is to look down at others, to exploit, to step over the toes of others, and then become arrogant, puffed up. And there's a tendency to really fall down. Like, Prabhupada was saying, this one president of India, one astrologer looked at his chart after he departed, and he said he's now a dog in Sweden. And so that's kind of assessment was given. So that's very, very interesting thing. And our mentalities and our desires, when we are born, it's registered like there is a certain adjustment or arrangement of the planets to indicate our desires. And those who know astrology a little bit, I don't know much about it actually, but just a general understanding is that certain planets, when you are born, there's an arrangement of the planets in the universe that influences your destiny throughout your life. And that because of your past activities, because of it's very complicated, it's law of karma, but those influences are because of your past activities and past desires, and certain influences, they draw out of you a certain desires that you have in the different stages of your life, and certain influences, karmic influences, becomes manifest in your life in terms of consciousness, in terms of things that manifest in your life, in terms of good and bad results. So when we are focusing on something, whatever we are focusing on, whatever we are desiring in our life, it sets our destination, where we're going. So there is a certain planet that reciprocates with your desire. So if you develop a certain consciousness and you desire a certain thing, then that consciousness will take you to specific planet to fulfill your desire in that specific particular way. It could be earthly realms, or it could be heavenly realms, or it could be lower realms. So we have to be make up our mind. What do we want? Do we really want just to go up and down, which we have been doing since time immemorial for many births? We've been going, developing and cultivating a certain types of desires, or do we want to make this last birth? And that requires a specific type of pure devotional consciousness. When our consciousness is crystal clear, free from material desires, and when our consciousness becomes full of desires to serve Krishna, this is what we've been given, this opportunity by Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada in a line of Guru Parampara. Is been given those teachings to purify and uplift our consciousness in one lifetime. If we are very, very serious and very dedicated, we can elevate our consciousness to the most elevated platform of pure devotion, where we don't take birth again. We remember Krishna alone. Krishna, this is the challenge. It has to be Krishna alone. There's nothing else, no more desire left of anything. This is Prabhupada has urged us, don't take another birth. He said, don't take it for granted, this opportunity that we can get elevated in this one lifetime. We have been given this opportunity and we are trying to exercise this opportunity now, and the most important thing that we can focus. So basically, whatever is our attention, this is where is our destination, and this is where what kind of body we're gonna get, and we have to see it. Do you want to have a material body again and try again? And this, it's called like a school of hard knocks. Sometimes we do the same thing again and again and again. In a positive way, it may be considered a little silly if you take it from positive point of view. Just doing the same thing again, which causes you misery and causes you suffering. Let's say you very much into alcohol or something, and every weekend you get drunk and you get into fight. And every weekend you have a blue eye, and let's say you get into a blue eye, and on Sunday you say, okay, never again. I'm fed up with this, and you go to your week, and as soon as weekend approaches, you do the same thing again. So if just from the positive point of view, we could consider it silly, but from the negative point of view, it could be even foolish. If you consider it even foolish that you just keep doing the same mistake again and again and again. It can be silly, it can be even foolish or even stupid. Sorry for using the hard words. But if you just keep doing the same mistake again and again and again and again and again and again, and you don't learn anything, that is silly or even foolish. So this is, in our situation, that we could just keep, trying, hoping against hope. We're looking for happiness. We want to be happy. We want to enjoy, and we're doing the thing that doesn't fulfill that promise. This will be considered, foolish or silly. Just to keep the same thing again, that doesn't fulfill, that you do the activity that doesn't achieve the goal that we are looking for. That's the silly thing about us being in this material world. So being given this opportunity is to change our body and change the planet forever. Go back to the spiritual realm, develop the consciousness of pure devotion, of pure love to Krishna, that we don't need to take birth again and attain this ultimate happiness. But even when we're given this opportunity, because of our past baggage, because of our past desires, they still linger on our consciousness. And we may be physically even in a temple, or we're performing our sadhana at home. We may be physically there, but our mind can be somewhere else. We all have that experience. Maybe physically in one place, but your mind is somewhere else. So sometimes, it is even considered like during japa, we may be sitting in a temple, physically, here, but our mind is considered all around the universe. I think I was mentioning that before in class, that our mind is all over the universe, in a sense that we're meditating on something else than devotion. We're meditating on some material desire. So the meaning that all around the universe means you're meditating on some material desire. That means you're gonna go there either in this life you're meditating on this, you're gonna go there, or maybe in the next life you're gonna get another body to achieve that specific desire in this another planetary system, or this, uh, earthly planetary system. So this considered, our mind is all around the universe, because it's like a setting our sat nav, whatever you're meditating, and you're typing in, okay, I'm going to the moon, I'm going to Glasgow, I'm going to Germany, I'm going to Manchester. Is a sat nav. Whatever you're meditating, that is your sat nav. And we also, when we are full material desires, we tend to flicker. So we just meditating of so many things. 1 minute on one thing, another thing on one things, and we even could be, like sometimes people, I think I mentioned, but it's just an interesting point to meditate on, is that we may be physically here, but we are like on another planet. In one sense, we're on the Earth. We're here on the Earth, but on the other hand, we're like on another planet. Sometimes people say, or or if we're very sleepy or something. You're physically there, but technically we are not here. If you're very sleepy in a class, then physically we are here, but mentally we are completely somewhere else. We may be even dreaming, like that. So that's also there. So we need to set our sat nav, and how to set our sat nav for the right destination is by studying very, very deeply and carefully scripture. It helps us to set the right destination, because otherwise we may just go for something very low, and when we get there, we think, why did they come here? And sometimes we tend to blame other people. Like, look, this is happening into my life. It's government's fault. It's another people's fault. It's the husband's fault. It's wife's fault. It's children's fault. It's the weather's fault. But actually, it's you who set the destination. There is no one to blame. If you're in a specific situation in your life right now, it's because you desired it, and or maybe you as unconsciously desired it, and you set the destination over it. There is no one to blame. You shouldn't blame anyone. You should take responsibility. I am here now because I meditated upon it. I desired it, and it manifested now because I wanted it, because of my consciousness. And a lot of people do that meditation subconsciously or unconsciously, uh, and they then, in a certain circumstances in their life, and they blame everybody else, and that blame, it gives them another body because they don't do anything about it. It's a victim mentality. It's a very, there are two extremes. One extreme is just to push everybody around, just, this is me, this is what I want, and I'm the best, and I'm better, and whatever I want, I just push everybody around. And another mentality is just, this also used to be extremely sensitive and extremely touchy. That everything just, little pokes us, and we become super offended. You just touched me. Why did you touch me? So that's a victim mentality. So both mentalities are not good. If you just push it, it's just getting anything I want to do. I just try to get it and grab it in whatever possible ways. Then we're gonna end up, getting a lot of reaction. It will be lonely in the future, and deprived maybe of association of other people or association of devotees, if we just like a very hard and extreme, and somebody is going to be pushing us around in the future. Or if we just like extremely touch, anybody just touches a little bit and I took an offense, then we don't do anything about it to improve ourselves. You just become so dependent on external circumstances that anything happens is just everybody else's fault, and I'm just this little person who has no control over anything. That's another extreme. But if you take responsibility, we are very empowered. I am the situation where I'm in now is the result of my past activities, It's I meditated upon this, I performed activities, and I getting just a token reaction actually by Krishna's mercy. I just getting a little reaction which is reduced what I supposed to get. I just got here wherever I am now because of my activities, and even maybe in the devotee association, maybe there is still some suffering coming. It's because of my past misdeeds. Tatėlų kantom susumikščių mano vadžianė ir ratma kripam vipakam ir dvakro babir ir dadam namaste dživeta your mukti padėti bak that I am tolerating, I'm suffering my past misdeeds, patiently tolerating whatever happens in my life, but at the same time I'm offering my respectful obeisances from my heart to the Supreme Lord, patiently suffering those reactions. And if you do that, then the spiritual world we just inherited. This is such elevated consciousness that we inherit automatically. Our consciousness is so elevated, we automatically inherit kingdom of God, and we go back to Vaikuntha. So that's the best thing, is to take that personal responsibility for where I am and try to elevate our consciousness. There is no material impediment for elevating consciousness. Whatever our circumstances, wherever we are, we can take opportunity to take teachings of the saintly people. Srila Prabhupada is there in our life. Even maybe physically distant from the people that inspiring us, our spiritual masters, gurus, we may be physically away. However, we can take teachings in a form of lectures, like John yesterday took part in a sangha of Kripamoya Prabhu, who is aspiring disciple of Kripamoya Prabhu. So get an association of great saintly person. And we can take that, and then we also have a people around us that can guide us, inspire us as well. So we don't want to go like a yo-yo. And therefore we need to very, very carefully study the scriptures that we know, and this is where pure devotional service starts. You may still be full of material desires, you may still have so many things unfulfilled, striving. However, our destination, we set our satna by deeply studying and hearing and chanting. We set our satna for Goloka Vrindavan. So there still be so many problems, so many desires, but my goal is Goloka Vrindavan. My goal is pure devotional service. My goal is purely serve great souls, my guru and devotees. And this is called neophyte pure devotional service. It is not mature yet, but our ultimate goal is this pure devotion. And Lord Chaitanya becomes very pleased when we set our satna towards that destination. So are there any questions or comments on this point? Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you very much for a very interesting lecture. So it was very informative. I was considering about you in the beginning. You mentioned different kinds of planners. The first one was this: my people are very interested in technology, and then you described how their behavior is and how their mind is, and so on. And then I was reminded of my childhood when I went to school. I also wasn't interested in technology at all, and the sciences like chemistry and physics and even mathematics. I had no connection to these subjects, and I was wondering why I'm not interested. I had no idea, and so this is my question: what does it mean when students and schoolgirls, schoolboys are not interested in technology? What does it mean?
It's a really good point. And sometimes, a person in elevated consciousness is a different type of consciousness, and we read in Bhagavad Gita, one who performed the yogic or bhakti yoga principles in past life, then hasn't completed them, hasn't finished, and then in the next life become automatically attracted to the yogic principles. So attraction to the yogic principles you can also simultaneously mean that we are detached from material principles. So, a person with elevated consciousness may not even do so well materially in terms of being having a great mark from chemistry or physics or whatever, mean that one will do well in those subjects. May perform quite purely and not poorly in the material subject matters because there is no interest or attraction. So that will be different types of consciousness. And actually technological, there is explanation that there is such a massive interest in technology on this earthly plane, on this age of Kali. So it's considered the influence of lower planetary systems because of that influence is becoming so higher, and technology and economic development is expanding as Kali Yuga expands. So the people with that mentality who may be now in realms that are very technologically advanced, but are very atheistic at the same time. They are born with that mentality. When they die, they are born in this earthly plane, in this specific planet, Earth, with that mentality, because that desire and that drive is there. So like that, and some people, but at the same time, there is also this Vrindavan is here, is a very significant planet in the universe. Krishna appears in this specific planet. Around the universe, there's many planetary systems and earthly planes, but this Vrindavan is on this specific planet where the Krishna appears. It's a very, very significant planet. So there are also people who are mixed. Some people's got a mixture of many material desires, but also they has got some attraction to Krishna consciousness. So there will be some people who are very technologically interested and also were interested in Krishna consciousness. And some people will be just like very attracted to the mode of goodness or Krishna consciousness or the yogic principles. So there are various types of mixtures that are beyond the scope of this class, because there's karma mishra bhakti. That means our devotion is mixed with desire for material enjoyment. There is jnana mishra bhakti, desire mixed with desire for liberation. Yoga mishra bhakti. We have a bhakti mishra karma. There's a predominantly material enjoyment with a little bit of bhakti, or bhakti mishra jnana, with desire for liberation with a little bit of bhakti. All those mixtures are there, or just the karma. I just want to materially enjoy. There is nothing else, or just jnana, just liberation, or just yoga, etc. So there is the different types of mentalities that also keeps us in the cycle of birth and death until we achieve a true devotion. Or if we just want a liberation, we may merge into impersonal existence, but again we eventually have to come back. So we will have to stop at this point. Thank you. Nice question. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitya Gaura Premanande. What's your destination today? Which planet do you want to go?